And welcome back to the Dreamcast. It's been a long time since we've talked to you guys, but we could not stay away. We have the wild card game coming up on Wednesday. It it's gonna be fun.
I think it's going to be spectacular. It's been what, like 4 months since we've done this? Like it's
At
just
least
been
I think since May.
ridiculously very busy.
Uh, Tell me about it. But what a 4 months it has been. We've seen Chris Bryant and Addison Russell and Kyle Schwarber grow up before our eyes. We've seen Jake Arrieta turn in one of the greatest second halves of all time. It's it's gonna be a great game with Arrieta versus Cole.
Yeah. And like going to be trolling us Cubs fans because that's just what they do, but honestly, why are we even listening? I mean, we honestly have nothing to lose.
Oh, absolutely not. The Cubs shouldn't be where they're at right now. Most fans would have been happy if they were 500 or where we predicted 87 wins. But no, the Cubs have 97 wins. They are the third best team in all of baseball. And they're going into Pittsburgh to face a team who they won the season series with Jake Arrieta on the mound, who might well be the best pitcher in baseball this year. He might well win the National League Cy Young.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember what exactly we predicted. I'm pretty sure it's the mid 80s, and 87 was a stretch.
Yeah, I think it was
Uh,
87 wins in third place. We got the
I
third
think,
place right, but not the
yeah, we were
87
definitely
wins.
in third place, but you expect the third place to be like 84, 85 wins. Andy actually predicted 84, and he was right on the money. We were in third place. The Brewers in fourth place, and the Cincinnati Reds in fifth place. So he was right on the money with the order. He was not correct at all about the win total because the Cardinals are devil magic. The Pirates are just really, really good, except for in division, and the Cubs were again just spectacular. I don't understand it at all, but I'm not going to knock it.
Uh, I'll take it gladly. I mean, this has been one of the best seasons I can remember in a long time. It's been more fun than 2008 and 7. It's been more fun since '03. And this might be the best team I've seen in my life.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things going right for the Cubs. Like they just stayed healthy the entire year, and that helped a lot in getting to their 97 wins. They got some good long relief even after their pitchers started crashing, and the two guys up top are really holding down the fort, and then there are just guys giving you 5-6 innings at a time, and then like Trevor Cahill came along, and you're just like, well, I didn't expect much, but he's been awesome. Travis Wood and Clayton Richard have been pretty good in their spot starts and their long relief. So, if they really need a bullpen game, I think we'll be okay. And I say we, being the Chicago Cubs, because I don't actually play for the Cubs.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen. Game 2 of the NLDS, if we get there, which I believe we will, because I'm not too confident with Jason Hamill, though Kyle Hendricks and Dan Heron have both definitely stepped up their game the past few weeks. So I have a bit more confidence in them than I have. But if they need to go to a bullpen game, I would not mind that one bit because of the success of Richard and Wood and Cahill. Just throw a completely different look at the Cardinals every time somebody comes up to it for a new at bat.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get a grasp on who the pitcher is and what they're throwing because it's somebody new every time up. I would not mind that one bit. As soon as somebody starts going wrong, they're gone. Somebody new is in. Boom. I think that'd be a good way to go. It would be very Joe Madden-esque.
Yeah. Speaking of Joe Madden, you know that the Cubs have won 7 more games than they were expected to by Pythagorean win-loss record. So Pythagorean is calculated by like this weird formula where they take into runs scored and runs allowed into account. Cubs only have like 81 more runs scored than allowed, but they've won 7 more games. So they're supposed to be around 90 and 72, which is still enough to win the wild card, mind you, but they're 97 and 65. The 97 wins being equaling the very last time they got to the playoffs. So this is actually really cool. And unfortunately, you know, the other 2 teams that got to the playoffs from our division are just that good, but 97 wins is nothing to sneeze at, and I think Joe Madden deserves a lot of the credit.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not sure this team would be where they're at without him. I'm not sure if there's another manager who could have taken a team starting 4 rookies almost every single day to the playoffs, winning 97 games. He engineered the greatest turnaround in Cubs history with taking a team that lost, what was it, 73 games last year? And now they won
Yeah,
97.
73 games. They won 73 games.
And that was the biggest jump in Cubs history.
Yeah,
He
it's
won
pretty
more
good.
games in his first year as manager than any other manager in Cubs history. He has worked magic.
Yeah, and you know, you think about Rick Renteria, and maybe, well, could he have done this? And I that he could have, and despite the fact that he would still had the same Jake Arrieta, the same rookies coming up, same Chris Bryant, maybe would the team have been as loose and as just, I guess, what John Lester says, would they have played as dumb? I honestly don't know. I don't think they would have been as loose and as pressure free as if Joe Madden was around.
Yeah, I
So
have.
yeah,
Yeah, I
this
agree.
was huge.
Renteria wasn't a bad coach for who he was, what he was brought in to do. But I have no doubt in my mind that he would not have this type of success with this team. He might have gotten us to Andy's 84 win mark, but nothing like this. Madden knew exactly what buttons to push, when to push them, how to keep this team's mind on the game at hand, not worrying about the game beforehand or the game that's coming up. And Joe Madden, I've been a fan of his for a while, but I never knew exactly how good he was or how good he was at doing what he does until he got here and I was able to see it firsthand.
Yeah, he handled the media pretty well too, always with a good quote. so
Yeah.
so it was definitely more chill than probably Lou Pinella or Quaddy or even Swain was.
Oh,
I think
definitely.
I think Renteria handled the press pretty well, but Joe Madden was just like, whatever, dude. I'm gonna give you my answers, and you can deal with it.
Absolutely.
Did we tell everybody that this is number 50 yet?
Oh no, we have not. This
Yeah,
is
and
Dreamcast
yeah,
50.
this is important because the guy who pitched the season finale, Dan Heron, he did a pretty good job. He wore number 50, and he's about to retire. So, hoping he gets to see a few more games before that happens, right?
Oh, I hope so. I would love nothing more than to see him win the World Series, Game 7 on the mound or whatever game he pitches, be the winning pitcher. He may not have started off very well with the Cubs, but he finished strong. He put up a pretty decent ERA with us. He has a good win-loss record with the Cubs this year. He really stepped it up late after stumbling out of the gates. I love his whole attitude and everything. He makes fun of himself for not being able to throw that fast anymore. Just look at his Twitter handle. I throw 88.
He very rarely throws 88 anymore. So when he does throw 88, it's quite a treat. Yeah, and as much crap as people give him, he was actually positive on the wins above the replacement side, according to Baseball Reference. He got .2 wins, and that's probably because of the last couple of starts when he ate a lot of innings and actually kept the other team at bay like we thought he could have. Unfortunately, he gave up his fair share of home runs. That's just the way he is. But
Yeah,
it was very nice to see him like figure it out towards the end.
and hopefully it keeps going into the playoffs because we're probably going to need him.
Yeah, I think
off my initial postseason roster, but I think he might have earned his way back on.
he'll be either long relief or spot starter, but I don't think he'll be part of the rotation. I still think Jason Hamill and Kyle Hendricks have the other two spots, and they've shown signs of like actually knowing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they'll be okay. Let me see. Chicken. Yeah. So between the Marlins and the Cubs, he was worth almost a win this entire year. So let's see his breakdown. Yeah, it was about the same as Baseball Reference. He was actually a positive contributor, and the fact that he 8 innings. That if you threw back Dallas or Travis Wood, who's become a pretty good reliever, they probably wouldn't have been able to do as well. But Dan Herron just stepped in and actually pulled his weight, so that's appreciated.
Speaking of pulling their weight, how about Castro, man? He was left for dead when he was benched for Russell, and since he was benched, he's been hitting like 400 or 500, man. He's really come back to life.
Right, and I think this comes back to something that this particular front office does, and the new manager. So they were like, well, he's not doing so hot, but we still believe in him because he's only 25 years old and he's had a history of success. So why are we giving up on him so fast, right? So then they decided, okay, you know what, you got to sit for a little bit. We'll give you matchups, and they got the matchups. And you look at the stats, and Castro is one of 9 Cubs with double-digit home runs. So despite his bad year, he was able to get to double digits again for like the 5th or 6th year in a row. Like I think his rookie year he only hit 3 home runs, but every year since then he's hit at least 10. So not a terrible player. He's not like the superstar that you'd want, but again, shortstop is very hard to find. Why get rid of him unless you can get a bounty, reduce trade value? Let's see, yeah, 3 in his rookie year and 10 every year since. Even in his off years, he was able to hit at least 10.
And then his benching that worked with his swing, that closed up his stance. He's seeing the ball better now. He seems to be playing a very confident second base. Maybe because he knows if he screws up, he has more time to get the ball to first.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's the fact that he's always had the right kind of attitude. Like, he's not a terrible person based on everything that I've read. Like, he wants to work hard. He does work hard. He tries to improve every single listening or reading what he says. It's the right kind of attitude, and that's probably the main reason why the Cubs were so patient with him, because they realized how important he was to the clubhouse. And we keep poo-pooing that every now and then, but it is important. Like, if your team's growing, they need veteran leadership, and he, like, as much as anybody, proved to be a pretty good veteran leader, even at like the very young age of 25. Yeah, there's a reason he's a 3-time All-Star, and it's not just because the Cubs needed a representative. It's because he actually earned it.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you look at his stats, the years that he went, he put up big numbers. He earned those slots. And I believe only the only year he was the only Cub was his rookie year. And looking at those stats, you'd be hard pressed to say he was just a token addition.
Right. I think he went with Lahair one year, and then the other year he went with Rizzo. So the Brian Lahair thing was kind of wacky, but I guess they decided he was worth it, and yeah, you
Yeah.
could tell too because his second half OPS is like almost 800, and that's pretty good. So
Mm.
he actually turned on a switch, and there are other blogs out there that's wondering whether it's sustainable. And simply put, he's too good of a hitter, just historically speaking, to slump for too long. Like he probably gets into some bad habits, but once you fix it, like he can figure it out. And maybe it's just that he can't adjust as fast sometimes. But I feel like it makes more sense to keep him and Baez around than to trade them right now.
Oh, I would love to keep Castro and Baez. I mean,
Yeah,
I'd love to keep most of this team intact. I know there's a lot of things that you need to fix and improve, but a lot of this team I would love to keep. Having Baez and Castro on this team that can basically play almost any place on the infield, giving a guy a
right.
day off here or there. Bryant can play any position in the outfield. He played first base the other day.
Yeah,
I'm sure if you gave him a catcher's mitt, he could catch. But
I think
I'd
he
love
once
to
said
keep
that
him.
he hated it, so that's probably why he would never try to catch. But yeah, he can definitely play the corners, and obviously he stood in center field a couple of times, and I guess he's fast enough and a good enough runner to cover it. But I would be very reluctant to keep him in center field. Left and right, I'm okay with. Third and first, I'm okay with, so he can be a corner utility guy. Uh, uh, Anything else, I think we're pushing it. But the cool thing about keeping both Castro and Baez, if they could swing it without having to trade one of them for like a pitcher, is now you have an entire infield full of shortstops, and you have like immense range. You have strong arms all across the infield. Like Baez has a cannon for an arm. Castro, as you know, has a pretty good arm. Russell has a good arm and excellent range, like anywhere on the diamond. So
He's made more
along
than a
with
few
Rizzo,
big plays this
you're
year.
basically you're basically having an airtight infield. So I feel like that's why they would be reluctant to trade any of them. Obviously, like obviously you're not going to trade Russell or Bryant, but trading Castro or Baez, they'd have to think twice about, and they'd have to be blown away before they do it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have some questions to answer in the off season, like what to do with Fowler. Do they bring Coghlan back? Should they keep Soler or Jackson? Jackson, by the way, is just come on like a gangbuster lately. He had 8 RBI in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't think
Extremely
it's
impressive.
one of those. Yeah, I don't think it's one of those things that's sustainable. But at the same time, you feel like, well, he's pretty good. He can play all three positions. He's obviously a solid ball player that once upon a time the Tigers you know, traded Curtis Gary Anderson so that they could use Austin Jackson, and then he keeps being like the centerpiece of some minor trades because teams actually want him, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
that's it's one of those things, and not to mention that with Dexter Fowler putting up the year he has, he's going to probably be too expensive to keep, unfortunately. Like I wrote a blog about how maybe they should think about extending uh, Dexter Fowler for a few years until someone like Albert Mamora is ready, but I don't think that's going to happen any more than the fact that guys like Chris Denorfia are available, and Coughlin is still arbitration eligible, and you can stick Chris Bryant into center field in an emergency. Like, it's not absolutely necessary to have Fowler, but it might be tough to keep that kind of approach in the lineup without Fowler at the top.
Problem is, if you let him walk, who do you replace him with next year?
I think they probably find a way to, you know,
Find
they'll
some
probably
quirky
find a stopgap.
pitcher out there?
There's always a stopgap somewhere. And the cool thing about Fowler is just knowing that the Cubs are now going to pick 28th in next year's draft out of 30, and this is before they like do all the compensation picks and whatnot. The Cubs need like extra picks, so that'll give them extra pool money. And the fact that Fowler is going to be a free agent and it's going to be a pretty coveted free agent, they're going to give him the qualifying offer, and they'll snag a draft pick from it. So, there's a couple of things like, how is Dexter Fowler going to just take the 1-year deal for $16 million? Maybe, maybe not. I feel like he's going to get at least Michael Bourne deal where he got 4 years and $48 million. So, like, the Curtis Granderson deal might be like a little bit on the high end, but he's going to take the money and he'll run, and that's fine, And I think the front office is smart enough to figure out who to replace them with. And again, if they really need to, just throw Chris Bryant in center field and hope for the best. Because if you think about it, with all those shortstops in the infield, no ball is going to get through anyway. So
Yeah, as long as there's somebody that can cover ground in the outfield, they can play center.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how the Cubs decided, you know what, we're in the National League, and even if we weren't, we're going to build as much positional flexibility as possible. And like Joe Madden's been going to town with it. And the cool thing is you could put like, Schwarber in left field, or he can catch on a whim, and he's actually looked fairly good doing it. So there's all kinds of flexibility in this roster. He could pretty much do anything he wants.
Oh yeah, if Schwarber can actually become a competent catcher, that Cubs lineup would be scary. Throw Bryant in left field permanently, as has been the main talk for ages. Put Baez at third. That is one scary lineup.
Yeah. I know Cubs fans have been complaining about the slow starts, but even with the slow starts, you see opposing pitchers' pitch counts go way up. Like, they're at 50 pitches, and it's not even the third inning. It's pretty crazy how sustainable that is, because they're taking pitches, they're seeing pitches, they're fouling off pitches, and they're trying to strike out, but it'll take like 7 pitches to do so. And that's actually really nice to see. And so by the time they've seen all these pitches, either the pitcher is like tired as hell when they come back the second time, or he's already out of the game because they've probably batted around. This is a really good lineup.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm confident that even though Garrett Cole is a tough pitcher, they can make him work and get into that bullpen. Though the bullpen for the Pirates isn't much easier. They have the best bullpen in baseball.
Yeah. It's going to be rough, but like I've been looking at Garrett Cole's starts against the Cubs, and he's barely made it through 7 on a couple of them, and he's only made it through 6 on the others. And every time he's faced the Cubs, he's thrown over 100 pitches in those like 6 or 7 innings. So he's usually out early. And yeah, you have to face the Pirates bullpen, but they are able to score runs against Garrett Cole. It's just not that many runs. So Garrett Cole isn't invincible.
Oh no, the Cubs have I believe a 2-1 record against him. Oh, he has a 2-1.
I think it's 1-2. So Garrett Cole is 2-1.
Yeah, and they have like a 2-something ERA against the Cubs.
Yeah,
so the Cubs can get to him.
he's good in that he's not going to allow them to score runs, but he's not so good in that the Cubs are going to make him work anyway. So
Yeah, it's going to be a great match.
That's the kind of thing I'm looking at, because like you're talking about one game, and all you got to do is get to him for that one game. If you can do that, then it doesn't matter who it is. It could be Clayton Kershaw, and the Cardinals have shown that they could get to him. So the Cubs, in fact, have gotten to Clayton Kershaw this year. So it's not like it's impossible just because it's Garrett Cole.
Oh, absolutely not. Everybody can be beaten.
Yeah, at the same time, you got to have a little humility and realize, well, yeah, Jacob Arrieta looks invincible now, but he still got to try to shut down the Cubs or the Pirates, so to give his offense a chance. And kind of the cool thing to think about, like, yeah, the Cubs aren't hosting the wild card game, but they get to bat first. And so if they can score first, they're putting the pressure squarely on Garrett Cole and the Pirates. And the Pirates have already shown that they could barely score against Jake Arrieta, so now the tables have turned, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those games where I'm, kind of confident about it, but I understand that, a strange balance will happen. Like maybe Addison Russell takes one off the cup. Maybe just a really good pitch somehow gets golfed into the Allegheny River. I don't know. But sometimes that stuff like that happens, and there's no explanation for it. You just say that's baseball, and you move on. But I'm pretty confident that the Cubs can win this game, and I'm kind of upset that I don't have cable, so I can't watch it. But I'll listen to the call on the radio.
Yeah, I sent out a tweet earlier about all my emotions for this game. I'm anxious about it. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm optimistic, and I'm confident. There's everything mixed up into one. And while I'm excited, I feel like I'm going to throw up right now because it's just that big and that important of a game. It's something that doesn't come along too often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, so did the Cubs refund your money since you're not going to the wild card game? Obviously.
No, that's getting put into the bank and will be reimbursed to us as a credit on next year's invoice.
Okay. So I guess
along with every other game that we don't use. The third NLDS game, which obviously there will not be for us.
Well, yeah, there will if
not at Ribby.
Oh no, they will, because if the Cubs win, you'll have to see at least one, right?
So yeah, but we had to buy 3 NLDS tickets or 3 games, just in case the Cubs magically overtook the Cardinal.
Right, but now you only have to deal with one of them or 2.
Yeah, we have 3 games. We have 1 game that we paid for, which will be credited back to our account.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm just saying, if the Cubs win on Wednesday, you'll have to see at least one game 3, and if they sweep, then that's even more credits to your account. So let's hope for
absolutely. We already have 2 games that are being credited to our account at least. And yes, I am confident we're going to beat the Pirates. I'm nervous as hell, but I'm confident. Yeah. But if we win in 4, great. If we sweep, fantastic. If we go back to St. Louis and beat them down in their own ballpark, even better.
Yeah, that would probably make the internet burn if that happened.
Well, I have no idea what the Cardinals are going to do if Molina can't go. Last I heard, they're giving him splints on his thumb, but they weren't sure he was going to be able to catch. I mean, who do the Pirates?
Right? It's his catching thumb that's got all busted. Yeah, we're looking too far ahead, but obviously the Cardinals have like almost an entire week to get Yadier Molina ready. If that's the way they got Adam Wainwright back, And this is all assuming that the Cubs can actually beat the Pirates, which I think they can. But
Stranger
as
things
you
have
probably
happened.
yeah, as you probably saw, like Jake Arrieta had to deal with some Pirates trolls and stuff, and that was fun. So now, like, both fan bases are like sniping at each other on the internet, and it's hilarious. But
Oh yeah, so one of the parody accounts for the Pirates was
uh,
talking about a blackout or whatnot. Arietta responded to him saying, "Whatever helps you sleep at night," something like that.
yeah, and it was just like, oh yeah, it's not going to matter anyway because I'm going to own you. It's pretty confident of him. Like I don't think I would be that forward about it, but that's Jake Arrieta for you.
Yes, keyword there: confidence, not arrogance. There is a difference.
I mean, they could say stuff like, yeah, Derek Cole's a really good pitcher and blah blah blah, but I'm still gonna do my own thing and I'm gonna do my best to try to beat him, and that's what athletes say, and nothing wrong with that. I don't think. Like some people just take it a little too seriously, but if the Cubs end up losing, well, it's been a wonderful year, and I get to go back to doing whatever without baseball.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If the Cubs lose against the Pirates, it won't matter. Yeah, it's gonna suck, but it was still a fantastic year. It was a
Yeah,
great year, and one that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. Because as I've
yeah,
said, that might be the best team I've seen in my lifetime.
yeah. I mean, they obviously have their flaws, and it's really really hard to win 90 plus games in baseball. Like people don't understand like how difficult Major League Baseball can be, but you realize, hey, you're talking about four rookies coming up, and they're all contributing at a high level. One of them has MVP caliber numbers and is most likely going to be the rookie of the year. Another is probably like in line for a Gold Glove if the voters see fit. And two others are contributing. Like one of them hit like 15 home runs in the first month he was around, and it's just crazy how good this team is.
Yeah, how about that? Kyle Schwarber's been up for about what 3 months, and he's already got almost 20 home runs.
Yeah, I mean
That
they're
guy's very
slumping,
good.
and yeah, they have to adjust. But the cool thing is, again, we're talking about depth, and the depth of this club is so good that one or two guys can slump, like a Kyle Schwarber can slump, but he's not expected to carry the team because you got Rizzo, you got Bryant, you got Dexter Fowler, you got role guys like Denorfia and Coughlin. They're not slumping all at the same time anymore. They're slumping at different times, and when that happens, you're still going to have someone to pick you up. So earlier in the season, when it was like impossible to score runs, and yet the Cubs were still winning, like it seemed like all the offense was slumping all at the same time. But now they seem to be getting their groove on right at the right time.
Hmm.
So it was really good of them to just say, you know what, yeah, we dig that you're struggling, but we're going to just keep you here because we feel like you can work through this. You need the adjustment period, and you're destroying AAA anyway. So what's the point of throwing you back down there? We're just going to keep you up so that you can figure this out against the best pitching in the world. And to their credit, they mostly did.
Hmm. I mean, these kids, they're just amazing, and I'm just excited.
And obviously everybody talks about the Back to the Future 2 thing, but you gotta think about, well, the Ricketts pretty much told the rooftops to go to hell, and the judge also did. So now they get to build their ballpark any way they want. They're buying the rooftop businesses across the street piece by piece. They got their jumbotrons. They're getting like increased ratings, increased attendance, increased everything. So money's there. It it's pretty incredible how everything's like just coming up Cubs.
Hmm. And the Cubs just barely missed out on the 3 million fan mark, and that's without having bleachers for the first 2 months.
Yeah. So
Imagine if they had the bleachers the entire time.
I think that that would have been nice. Like obviously the winter was ridiculous this past January, so they couldn't really do anything. But yeah, it would have been amazing if they could do that. They're at 2,959,812 paid, so they were about 40,000 shy of 3 million for the first time since what, like 2009.
Pretty much.
Yeah, let me check on that. So last year they were at 2.65 million, which honestly is pretty good because like the fans were starting to pay attention and realizing, oh, Anthony Rizzo is pretty good, Starlin Castro is pretty good. There's this Chris Bryant kid, and they just traded for Addison Russell. So yeah, these guys are pretty good, and they also had guys like Hendricks and Arrieta already. The last year that Swain was here in 2013, it was 2.64 million, so that was still pretty good. And you could see like 2.88 million in 2012. That was the first year Theo was here. And they actually had 3 million in 2011, which was pretty interesting. You think about it, because that team was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they've had over 3 million for a while, and I guess having over 3 million was able to, even during the lean years, they were able to use some of that money because you know how the Ricketts kept saying, "Hey, we got to put these profits back in the team." So having those 3 million fans during the lean years before Theo got here, that was important for banking some money so that they could eventually sign guys like John Lester. So I think,
And maybe, I don't know, David Price this coming off season.
yeah, I don't know if they're gonna do that. Like, there's just like rumors lying around that they're gonna be careful with their money and they're trying to negotiate a new TV deal, etc. So I feel like David Price is a pipe dream, and not to mention that the Cubs already have an expensive pitcher in John Lester. Like, he's not as expensive as David Price is going to be, or say a Justin Verlander or Clayton Kershaw, but he's still like pretty hefty.
And then they
And
still have to
maybe,
re-sign Jake Arrieta in a year.
yeah. So I honestly don't know how much money the Ricketts family has, to be honest. I just don't.
Oh,
Hmm?
the reason I'm keeping an open mind about David Price or another big name pitcher, the
Yeah.
infield is dirt cheap. The outfield is dirt cheap. They're spending very little on those players right now. They have a
Right.
lot of money which they could spend on pitching.
Right. And I'm guessing that they'll give a modest raise to the 0 to 2 guys like Brian and Schwarber and whatnot. So they'll get their 500,000 and then some. But I feel like they're gonna try to sign them on cheapy extensions. If they can't, they'll try to keep that on the cheap as much as they can. Like, it sounds terrible, but they're pretty much allowed to do it just based on the CBA.
So they
Obviously,
kind of do to them what the Angels did to Trout.
yeah, but at the same time, like, Mike Trout eventually got like his super extension, which, if it makes any sense, like, Mike Trout is actually getting underpaid, but he'll still be set for life.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, but just gonna caution people not to bank too much on getting a David Price, because he is going to be expensive, and part of that is the fact that he was traded mid-season and he won't be tied to a qualifying offer, so they're going to like really just throw the money at them, because all the teams that sign him, they won't have to cough up a draft pick. And I feel like now that the Cubs are out of protected range and they still need to continue building the farm system, despite the fact that this farm system is one of the best in baseball, they need all the draft picks that they can get until they renegotiate the CBA. So it's fairly important to think about those things. It's not to say that, it's impossible for them to sign David Price, but I don't think it's very probable at this point in time.
Man, it's
Until
probably
we
a pipe
actually,
dream.
yeah, I mean, we thought that they wouldn't be able to sign John Lester either, and then it happened. So whatever, Theo magic.
But we have a long time to worry about that. We've got a big game coming up in 2 days. Actually, by the time you listen to this, probably tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be Wednesday for sure. 7 p.m. 7 p.m. TBS.
Oh, no. It is 7:08 p.m.
Oh right. Because they got to do all the things like the pregame flybys and the Star Spangled Banner and tributes to the old Pirates or whatever because they're a PNC. So that's pretty important.
Don't read into too much about the game starting at 7:08. There are some fans that are looking for signs everywhere. As I mentioned in a blog I just wrote, there are no signs. It's just coincidences.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy and all that, so
Kennedy
what
had a
does that
secretary
mean?
named Lincoln.
Yeah. All right. So we have lives, which means I have to get back to work, and you probably have to go to sleep. So
Oh yeah.
let's wrap
Waking up
this
in
up.
about 6
I'll edit the
hours.
crap out of this, and then we'll post it. So,
all right, y'all. Enjoy the game. Go Cubs. And maybe we'll be able to squeeze something in before the NLDS starts.
Yeah, we'll just pretend the Cubs win the World Series, and then we'll do one after that.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah. Okay. WorldSeriesDreaming.com, etc. Peace out, y'all.
Ciao.